Produced by Podcast Architects.
All right, welcome back to The Path Forward. As always, I'm your host, Dr. Rick Fernandez, and we speak about innovation and education. Today, I have a very special guest. I shouldn't say guest, I should say mentor, confidant, friend, Dr. Rudy Trevino. Now, I have to tell you a quick story about Rudy. So as a young administrator on my path, trying to find my way, one fateful afternoon, it's Sam Houston State, the Harvard of the South. I see,
up, cat.
Yeah, there you go. I see Rudy there, and he pulls me aside, and he begins to mentor me from that point. And from that point on, I was able to land my first principalship in HISD and has been a mentor ever since, even through the tough times. But I owe a lot to Rudy and very thankful. And so it is a special time because I want him to come on and share the great things that he's doing, that he has done, not only in Far San Juan, but all over the place. And so thank you for being here. And I'm excited, man.
I'm excited to be here, Rick. Thank you for having me. And the respect is mutual, man. The level of reciprocity that we've had as colleagues and sharing great practices and being there for each other when we need some support. So it's been a blessing to get to know you and for you to even consider me a mentor, because I remember that day.
Yes.
It was actually a professor that
Dr. Bustamante
introduced me to Rick and said, I want you to mentor this guy. Little did she know that I was going to be learning a lot more from you than she would have thought.
I don't know about that.
You're a good man, Rick. Thank you.
I appreciate it. So for those who don't know, tell us a little bit about how you got into education, your career path, and some of the things that you guys are doing now in Far San Juan.
Well, great. Just a quick story. Actually, we're both Bearcats, Sam Houston State grads. I actually went to SAM to go study law and criminal justice, like every single person that goes to SAM. And I switched my majors to education. Interesting story. I was doing a phenomenological study for one of my classes. And they forced me, they encouraged me to go to several cafeterias and look at the student dynamics. And a week or two after those experiences, I changed my major and went to education.
Really?
And never looked back. So that was the why. And I am currently the Chief Academic Officer at Far San Juan Alamo ISD in the Rio Grande Valley. We serve 32,000 students, 42 schools, and we have approximately 52 partnerships with either small entities or daycare centers. Or any of the community centers, and we actually are the operators of those partnerships as well.
Wow. Okay, so talk a little bit about that, because that's creative, that's innovative, that's something that a lot of districts don't do or don't have the capacity to do. How's that benefited the kids, and how'd that kind of get in motion?
Sure. Let me begin by saying that I have to reiterate this message several times.
Okay.
That the best innovation is our people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So at PSJA, our staff, our previous administration and our current administration, we have decided to safeguard partnerships with daycare centers. So what we do is, when I say partnerships, is we monitor the curriculum that's delivered as early as birth to pre-K 3, 4, when they come into our schools. And we send teachers and staff into these daycare centers to carefully monitor their academic progress and their social adaptation process. So when I say previous administrations, this is a vision that was created by the many boards ago and many superintendents ago, and implemented by the previous superintendent, Dr. King. And it's an amazing innovation, I tell you that.
Wow. So the impact that you're having, I can't even imagine. So kids get to really be a part of the system, even when they enter daycare, and you can monitor the reading skills. And I can't imagine how many, you catch things as they matriculate. Your teachers probably learn a ton by just being a part of that as well, right? I would think that a teacher that doesn't necessarily have experience with the young ones gets to see some development, like, oh, okay.
Absolutely. And can you imagine the early identification of certain things, whether it's phonemic awareness or it's selective mutisms or actual patterns of behaviors that we can identify early and begin to address early. So we have staff. We partner with them, and we have our own teachers there. as well as if you're a daycare center owner or what have you, you get to run it as you please, but with our curriculum and with our staff there. And then we have an internal system that allows us to assist and monitor some of our students and archive certain things that we need for academic progress. That's one of the innovations, but I would tell you, PSJ has a great portfolio of schools,
Okay.
amazing portfolio of schools. If you don't know much about PSJ, we're early college wall to wall.
Oh, really?
So every high school and every student graduates with their associate degree, so it's an amazing experience.
Wow.
You'd be surprised. A little known secret is in the Rio Grande Valley, and it's amazing. We're also partnering recently. We're partnering with PSJ is part of what's called the System of Great Schools.
Okay.
I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's a TEA initiative to instill innovation in school districts. So through that partnership, we meet as it's a little bit of the influence of the districts of innovations.
Right.
And some people like to talk about districts of innovation. Some of us have to talk in a different language about districts of innovation.
Sure.
So we actually implement some best practices that organization provides, including applying for certain grants that have innovation embedded in it. I'll give you some examples. The School Action Fund grants are the ones that allow us to open up schools or restart schools, or normally those are from low performing ideas, right? But in this case, it's also to create a true diverse portfolio of schools.
Yes. Yeah, and that's a great point that you mentioned, because a lot of times, and you know this, we've been in Houston, we work together, and you're always scrambling and trying to find, how do we raise up the students that are struggling most. But sometimes we forget that we've got to deliver on both ends, right? And some of the innovation not helps everybody. It doesn't just help the high performing kids, the kids that are struggling. It helps everybody, and it keeps your teachers fresh and motivated and excited about different things. So. Man, I didn't realize y'all were wall to wall.
Yes,
that's
awesome. It's
awesome.
Amazing. Let me share an interesting observation I made since we're talking about innovation. Obviously, I'm the chief academic officer at PSA, but let me just talk about something that we have in common, right? Which is Houston ISD. Even though I served in Houston ISD for 22 years and 12 of them in central office, I didn't know one of the best innovations I've seen, which is the Energy Institute, the Energy School in HISD. Just amazing. So if anyone ever wants to learn on true innovation, different learning practices now, setting up and building schools to where even the building itself will lend itself for that inherent innovation, I encourage everyone and anyone. I'm a huge fan of the school. Many years ago, Dr. Terry Greer had the idea and worked with business partners in the energy industry and several philanthropists. And it's a school to visit at some point or another.
Yep. No, you mentioned Dr. Greer, who's both mentor to us and sometimes a stern dad when we need it. He did a lot of innovative things, and I've been able to carry that on to different avenues in my realm as well. What are you seeing in the landscape for your high school kids when they're exiting out? Obviously, we want kids to go to college if that's what they desire. But in terms of the job market now, I get the sense that businesses are, hey, college is great, but if you know a skill and you can utilize that skill, like we'll hire you now and pay you a great wage, make a great living, and not have this college debt that you may acquire. That's the feel I get. The industry is more turning to, it's great if you have it, but you don't need it. I need somebody that's coachable and that has a skill. Like, what are you seeing down in the valley?
I'll tell you what. Some of the things we've done is adopt the PTech model.
Okay.
And be able to look at industry-based certifications for students. So I'm a huge fan of the PTech model, and I'm also a huge fan of the IB. Some people think it's IB diploma. Well, now IB has an IB business certification, which is aligned to similar PTech type of initiatives. But what I like about that is you actually create a product at some point or another. Your entrepreneurship kicks in, and you monitor students to actually create a business, start a business, and create a budget, and have to show profit margins to be able to obtain the IB certification in the business sector now. So I'm a huge supporter of the fact that now even the International Baccalaureate programs have understood true innovation and true diversity as it pertains to students needing different categories. Again, not everyone is going to go to college, and even if we look at it in the right way, some students will go to college and they probably won't finish college because they're creating their own product. They're selling
right.
something. Their innovation's amazing. If you just look and think about like the whole TikTok phenomenon right now, those kids are creative.
Oh,
They're
ridiculously.
extremely creative. So we just have to adapt to the pace and the momentum they've created.
They're evolving with their creativity quicker than we can adapt at this point. And that's exactly why we had the podcast, because hearing these ideas from yourself and other leaders, it's like we got to stay ahead of the curve with that. I mean, I got 3 kids, you got kids, everybody wants to be a YouTube star, right? Or Instagram or whatever, so but there's a lot to be learned. As much as I'm a dad and be like, hey, focus on what's important, but I got to be careful, because if I kill some of that creativity, like my daughter learned how to edit, like she's 12, learn how to edit her own videos, learn how to upload, download, learn how to do all of that. I said, because Maya said, all right, fine. If you want to do that, you show me how you're going to do it, and you got to learn how to do it on your own, and then we'll talk about it.
Right.
And I'll be darned, she did. So and I'm like, but it just shows you that.
You just reminded me of something very important, Rick. So if we look at apps, right,
Mm-hmm.
most of the very successful apps that are tailored to the youth, they have an embedded autonomy for the kid, the user, the end user, to be able to use whatever creativity they want. If we look at education at the macro level, if you create the same autonomy for your people to bring about innovation, then that's
It'll happen.
to it. Yeah, it'll start happening.
Yep.
You just need to be the leader that also allows the opportunity for that to happen, and then safeguard them so that systemic red tape and policies do not inhibit their innovation. I think that's the key. Just like TikTok, right? You also want to monitor that innovation in some way or another, because you never know where that innovation may go and create unique situations that our students should not be participating in.
Right.
But for the most part, if you do allow enough autonomy, and you have a system that what we call earned autonomy, right?
Yep.
You'll be able to see some amazing things from our people.
So one point I was discussing with one of my last guests, Dr. Eli Jones. He's former dean of the Mays Business School, and something that's I've really been trying to wrap my mind around is, the role of entrepreneurship in letting kids fail and how we allow them to fail. His point was fail and fail fast, right? So that way, for innovation, it's okay to fail, but once you realize that there's a failure, you just got to start over and start working towards, all right, this has now this failure has led to this innovation because I learned how to do this in a different way. How do we do that in education, where obviously kids have to have grades, we have to have a baseline of their aptitude, but how do we set them up for that innovation piece where, look, you're going to fail at this. It's okay. There's going to be some struggle there. It's not, everybody doesn't have to have a straight A. Like the goal is to learn from a failure and be let in on that,
Right. Let me use a couple of analogies, or metaphorically speaking. It's like teaching a kid how to ride a bike.
Right.
If you're a parent and you've ever taught a child to ride a bike, you go through the training wheel process, right? And then you take the training wheels off, but then you're running down the street or down in the park, holding on to that seat for a long period of time. And the minute you let go, the kid falls, and you start to feel guilty that you let the kid fall. Sometimes we have to let the kids fall, and sometimes we have to let innovation go and fail so that you can regroup. I can tell you some of the things I subscribe to, and some of the things we subscribe to at PSJA right now is actually putting a leader through an incubation process. So we have leaders that are actually going through a year-long planning process, and they have some great mentorships. TEA allows us to fund different supporters that actually work with these individual innovative leaders, right? They go through their fellowship process, and we're also able to create systems while we're doing that before we actually launch something that's creative, right? So I subscribe to that, which is what I call the bike, the training wheel philosophy.
I like it.
Where you still have the training wheels, but you also have the ability to go wherever you please,
right?
Wherever the innovation takes you. I think it's incumbent upon us to also know, okay, it's time to take the training wheels off, and it's time to get out of the way.
Right.
I think that's where true innovation happens.
No, that's a great point. All right, I got to ask you a mentorship question because, and I'll quit drilling you, but one of the pieces of mentorship that I've had a number of mentors and tried to be a mentor myself. Do you think we do a good enough job of letting people see, either whether it be mentees or aspiring leaders, to learn and see from our failures? And what I mean by that is, like, if we were to go out, we're at a conference, right? And we're hearing all the great things from a lot of leaders, and those are great things. You can learn from the great things that have happened or the innovation that's happening. But I think the true value is being in the room when the bad happens or the unexpected happens, or something that's out of the control that you're having to struggle to fix as a leader. And I'm trying to wrap my mind around, how do I do that better, so that people that consider me a mentor or trying to learn, I got to be able to let them in on the mistakes, because I make them, there's no doubt, right? How do we do that? Should we do that more so than just showing, hey, these are the great things? I just been really thinking about how to be a better mentor to
Oh, absolutely. I think, if we look at the psychology of things, the development of the brain, right? And we look at youth, or the business we're in with educating kids, right? The brain development really occurs up until around the age of 25, 26.
Okay.
So we make mistakes, right? So if you have a parallel comparison of that alongside a new experience, a new trial and error process, we're all going to make mistakes at some point or another. So I always encourage people to be as valuable, as transparent as possible. And to your point, allow people to see you making the mistake. Allow people to see you, how you're reacting to that process, right? There's also a process of culpability. I feel mea culpa, right? I did this and I don't want anyone to know about it. No, once we let our guard down and we surround ourselves with great people that care about us, that care about our success, that their number one goal is for us to be successful no matter what, then we're allowing people to really enter into knowing what our temperaments are, knowing what's getting us into those little bit of issues here and there, because 99% of the time, it's our leadership. Right. And a lot of people, they give me a lot of credit. People acknowledge, oh, you're such a great leader. It has taken a lot of mistakes to even be considered by one or two individuals as a leader, much less someone associating me with a good leader or a great leader. So sharing those experiences of mistakes, I think when we make ourselves vulnerable enough to allow others to know what we've gone through, it allows them to see that even if they ever get into a situation, they'll be able to actually get through it and process and regroup. Right. So what I do a lot is make sure I have systems in place to be able to have one-on-one with my mentors, mentees, to be able to be accessible both in person now and virtually, right? Right. And create a process of having check-ins, having accountability partners that really and truly help me. Obviously, if I would do a good job at that with my weight and my health, I'd be better. But when it comes to the business, I can tell you I have been blessed to have some of the best mentors. And the only thing they've ever asked in return is that I find a good cadre of leaders and become a mentor to them, because their success will be my success. I was noticing in one of your podcasts, Dr. Daryl Henson, and I call him my son, Well, he's definitely younger than I am. He's much more handsome than I am.
Well, I didn't want to say it, but since you did.
And he's got this it factor, this ability, charisma, the ability to just capture an audience. And I remember hiring him in his first principalship. I knew this is going to be a great young man, a great leader, right? But I also knew I've got to tag along for a long time, because some of his mistakes are going to come from his strengths. Sometimes we know our strengths become our weaknesses. So I think if we have those type of relationships with individuals and we see it as we build our own curriculum around it, because that's kind of what I do when I mentor someone, then that, it could be fluid. It can go one way or another. I saw Dr. Henson, I'm speaking about him earlier today, and I was thinking the same thing. I said, here he is, Mr. Charmer, very energetic. He's going places. And now I'm thinking, I've got to go pull him aside and have a nice one-on-one with him soon, about an observation I made and give him feedback. Sure. So I think if we make ourselves vulnerable enough to have real coaches, you're a former athlete. Yes. I remember going and watch you play basketball. He was an all-star athlete, if people don't know that in your podcast. Okay. A great basketball player, right? I'm sure you had some academic coaches and some social type of coaches, telling the guys Be careful with partying too much. Be careful with this. Same thing.
Yeah.
It's a profession. And if we look at it, it's one of the most important professions of educational leadership, right? We have a lot of people in our care. So we owe it to the people that we serve to have great mentors.
You're absolutely right. Last thing we got to talk about. We got to talk about your Cowboys.
Oh, man, come on now.
No, come on, we got to. Like,
Come
it
on.
can't all be.
Why'd
It can't all be serious.
Go there, huh?
So
You just had to.
we have
go
to.
there. Look, let's talk about the Cowboys, but let's talk in a different way.
Okay. However.
Okay. A mentor once told me, Dr. Robert Dudon once told me, don't watch the sports anymore, Rudy, just to entertain yourself.
Okay.
Okay. Don't watch it to see a play or what have you. Watch the organization of an organization.
Okay.
Watch the coaches. We know what happens after the regular season that Monday. I forget what they call it, right? When they start firing coaches left and right. Watch that. Look who's up and coming. Analyze leadership styles. Analyze organizations. Yes, I know you probably want to talk about Jerry Jones and all, but analyze those relationships that people have in how an organization like the Cowboys, we may not go into the playoffs. We may not go deep into the playoffs or win a playoff game. I know we're going to say that, right?
Our fantasy football team is going to love that you said that.
But systemically, the Cowboys have always been a organization that people either love or they love to hate with a passion.
Right. Polarizing.
Right?
Yeah.
But that's a system of success. Not because I'm a Cowboys fan.
No, you're right.
But it's a system of success. It produces revenue. It attracts some of the best athletes. They may not work together and win games, but it attracts some of the best athletes. It attracts some of the best coaches. So it's amazing to watch it with that perspective. I knew you were going to mess with me about my Cowboys, but I had to personalize it and professionally speak about it.
You are definitely an educational leader. You just need to change that dynamic real quick, man.
You have to become a conversationalist.
I'm not on the board.
You have to be a conversationalist when people start talking about your team, man. Come on now.
What do they need? What moves they need to make?
Oh gosh, just a ton of them. I would definitely start looking at the amount of times that our kicker has let you down.
Yeah.
I would definitely start looking at what's the lifespan of the shelf life of Zeke, and then Dak, to be honest, we just have to give him a little bit more time. Some people are forgetting he hasn't had a lot of seasons as a starting quarterback, So I think with time, and then you just have to pray and hope that other teams are not doing as well.
You got the right head coach?
Think so? Yeah, I think so. We definitely have a good quarterback, great receivers right now, great defense. So I think it's just a couple of things, little good investments here and there.
If you weren't a Cowboys fan, what's your next team? Are you going to?
Los Vaqueros.
Really?
Los Vaqueros de Dallas. I just switched to Spanish.
I know that. It was like
either Cowboys or Los Vaqueros de Dallas. No, I would have to. Maybe I'd search deep inside my heart. I have two brothers, and the way it worked in my house was my oldest brother was an Oilers. Okay. My other brother was a Steelers fan.
Why Steelers?
I don't know.
The color, the black and gold, yeah,
it was tough back then.
Rod Woodson.
Yeah. Those. So I think just for the fun, for the heck of it, because being a Cowboys fan is being a Cowboys fan. I'm fascinated by the culture and climate of the Raiders.
Okay.
I'm fascinated in a kind of rebellious type of way, right? Like it's almost like you go from Cowboys, people are always going to talk bad about your Cowboys. You go to Raiders, people are probably always going to talk bad about the Raiders as well. Right. So if I were to have the second option, just because of how intrigued I am with the Raiders.
I've never thought about it. They do have a very unique fan base, right? And they are, they are diehard. Yeah, they're diehard.
It's tough. I remember going to one of their games in Oakland, right? And, man, it was a rough crowd. I tell you, it was a rough crowd.
You had your Raiders gear on, though, right?
I had a solid black, because I'm still a Cowboys fan now.
Okay,
solid black, and I believe jeans. But, man, it was rough.
That's funny. Who wins the Super Bowl?
Definitely not the Niners.
That's spoken like a true Cowboy fan.
They lost last night, huh?
That's hilarious.
Gosh.
I got to go.
I'm indifferent. I'm indifferent.
Are you?
Who are you going with?
I want the Bengals to win.
Yeah.
There's something about
young novice quarterback, I think, tells us a lot, right, about the pedigree of quarterbacks now.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He did great. I wasn't rooting for the Bengals, But I am fascinated. Burrows?
Yeah.
Burrows,
Yeah.
right? I am fascinated by him.
Who's your pick for the Super Bowl?
Bengals.
By how many?
Oh, gosh. All the games have been so close, maybe
know.
by like 3.
Okay. I'll go Bengals by 10. I'm going to go out on a limb.
Oh, wow.
I think Joe Burrow's going to shock the world.
No, I think it's going to come down to the wire.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before we sign off, any shout outs you want to give to anybody?
Absolutely. You know, Dr. Jorge Redondo, our school superintendent, PSJ, and our school board. It's an amazing school district. I tell you, if you ever need to encourage anyone to go and visit us, feel free to do so. But just PSJ, it's a beautiful place, amazing people, and great leaders. And innovation is there, man. I tell you, I forgot to mention one thing before I leave.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, if you look at our pathways towards independence, when you have our special education students that are either graduates or about to graduate, and they're anywhere between 18 and 24 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing things for kids. You know, we were talking earlier about industry-based certifications where you connect them with a job.
Right.
And so that they learn real life skills.
Yep.
I mean, PSJ has it all from the highest performing kid to those that need us the most. We have systems in place to really and truly, in an innovative way, serve the needs of all of our students.
Well, let me ask you this then before we sign off. What if we took a road trip, came and visited, and did something like this on site, and maybe you could show us some of the things that are happening?
Absolutely, you guys are always welcome, and we have, you won't regret it. And if anything, I don't know if I did a decent job at the podcast, but you definitely could find some great people out there that can do a much better job at the podcast.
You did great. No, but you got me excited because of your passion, talking about all the great things that are happening. So I always like, let's go see it, man. That's where you get to see the kids in action, and you get to hear from the teachers and stuff. So maybe we'll make a little road trip.
Let's do it, Rick.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Sounds like a plan.
Well, thank you for being a guest, man. It's been great.
You.
And we'll continue. We'll continue, and we'll see you next time in the PSJA.
Nice to see you again, brother.
You got it.